Start with this one in D.C. We just got past what happened over at the reflecting pool. Those charges were dropped, and here comes this woman now down at the World War II Memorial, except this time she incriminated herself.
Yes, she did. Apparently, it's been reported that she filmed herself doing these acts and has admitted to it. So I think this is going to be a much more straightforward prosecution on a topic that just seems to be very controversial right now. It was very bad timing on her part to, partake in these acts so soon when this is such a sensitive issue right now.
Yeah, is there more to add charging wise and in the way that she'd be prosecuted if in fact the government can prove that it was politically motivated?
Sure. Yes. So again, I should caution that she hasn't been convicted. She will most likely plead guilty in court, innocent until proven guilty. And so we don't know exactly all the facts yet. But in terms of how the reporting, how the case looks, I think that these two charges will cover everything. They're up to 10 years each. And also, I saw that she was recognized as for unlawful camping in a separate incident. And to me, in my mind, what that says is she's probably unhoused, and there may be mental health issues as well. A lot of times those go hand in hand. So just as a criminal defense attorney reading between the lines here of the reporting, I would think that there could be some mental health issues, and the charges will adequately, I think, address, or more than address, I think, the situation here.
This is a prosecutor, the U.S. Attorney for D.C., Jeanine Pirro, who has been very forceful with prosecutions, very strong, and yet you talk about the mental health aspect of it, which in the end seems to be in the hands of a judge. The judges here in D.C. maybe being a little bit more lenient in that sense. How do you think those two things go together? And if, in fact, she does plead guilty, what do you think is the end result, given the fact that she's facing 10 years on each charge?
Yes. So, again, whether, clearly these acts are illegal. If she's convicted or takes a guilty plea, I do think that a judge would take into account any mental health issues, her situation. Again, it's reported that she was recognized for unlawful camping, and to me, that's code word for unhoused. So I think that's what our court system is for. We have charges. We have the government who wants to pursue a certain tack. The prosecutor here, Ms. Pirro, wants to come down very hard against this type of activity. However, judges and defense attorneys, it's part of the system, and there may be some mitigating information. For instance, if there are mental health issues or other things going on in her life that would mitigate the sentence and cause the judge to go much less than the higher range here, 10 years each.
All right, we'll see what happens after these charges move forward. Let's go up to New York now, where Luigi Mangione pleaded guilty to stalking charges in a federal court in Manhattan today. Mangione, by the way, facing federal and state charges in connection with the killing of United CEO Brian Thompson. Both attorneys here speaking outside of federal court. Joseph, let's take a listen here.
With today's guilty plea, Mr. Mangione has accepted full responsibility for the death of Brian Thompson, arising from the events of December 4th, 2024, outside of the United Healthcare Investor Conference here in Midtown Manhattan. It was a single tragic event, yet he's being prosecuted twice for the same conduct.
Just a few moments ago, Mangione pled guilty to his heinous act. This was not a spontaneous act of violence. It was deliberate, calculated, and premeditated.
What do we make of this, Joseph?
Sure. So I think if you listen to the words of the defense attorney very carefully, what I see going on here is that there's two different forums right now where Mangione is being prosecuted. One is in federal court for stalking and cyber stalking, and the second is in New York State court for murder. Now, federal prisons are usually better than state prisons, And we've talked about separate sovereigns, meaning the Supreme Court has said that it doesn't violate double jeopardy to be prosecuted both federally and state-wise. However, the New York state legislature has very good protection against double jeopardy, stronger than the Constitution. So under New York state law, now his defense attorneys can go back to the state court and say, listen, the same transaction or occurrence that he just pled to in federal court now means that double jeopardy applies and he cannot be prosecuted in state court anymore. So that's what I see. I see this plea agreement being set up for purposes of battling the double jeopardy issue in the New York state court for murder.
And that the federal charges, at least as we see them, they're lesser charges than the state charges.
Well, they're lesser charges. They're not as serious as murder. However, it does carry the possibility of life in prison.
Okay.
And that's something that the judge voir dired him on today. He said, do you know that you could face life in prison? It's contemplated that he would receive between 24 to 30 years in custody.
Got it.
However, it is possible for the judge to override that and give him life in prison.
Okay, so is this a plea deal, or is he just coming ahead, pleading guilty, and then allowing the judge to, on the sentencing guidelines, sentence him?
Yes. So a lot of times the plea is a two-step process. Number one, they do the plea in court, somebody pleads guilty, and then they put the case over for actual sentencing. And that's the judge will have a probation report. Everybody will have studied the possible consequences. Everybody will be sort of fully informed. And then you argue over how much time the person gets, actually. So it's usually, a plea agreement is usually a two-step process.
Got it. Okay. Another case that we're following here, Joseph, is the Elick Murdoch case out of South Carolina. He's charged with murdering his wife and his son, and now he's getting retried based on some issues with a witness in the prior trial after being in court today for a status hearing. Where are things right now?
Sure. So he was convicted in his first trial. However, through post-court proceedings, it was shown that the elected county clerk who was elected by the voters had improper contact with the jury and told them things like, don't listen to his testimony. We all know he did it. He's guilty. And the Supreme Court of that state, based upon that action, threw out his convictions. And they said it was very, heinous actions to undermine the jury process.
Wow.
So he gets a new trial, and there's also an issue as to where the new trial will be. The first trial obviously had a lot of publicity, but they chose to do it in the same county where the murders occurred. However, for the second trial, they're saying by this time there's been so much publicity, there's no way he could get a fair trial here. So that's another thing that they were talking about in court. Where do we put this new trial? The judge hasn't said where that will be, but both sides have given their options.
Interesting. All right, we'll be following that closely, and we appreciate you breaking those two down. Thank you so much, Joseph Tully, for us here on the DMV Zone. Now to the Washington Commanders.